Heroes of the Undergrowth, made by Slug Disco, and around 2024 is when it released. This game is in the vein of Sim-Ant, but with a whole lot more going on than simply fighting the red ants, and eventually expunging the humans from the house. The story here is a pair of scientists breeding a colony of mixed ants, with one scientist immediately sounding like they might be the bad guy, or at the very least some sort of mad scientist. The Formicarium, which is essentially your personal base, has your queen and all the unlocked species present. Initially, you only have access to a few, but as you advance in a game with, missions, you'll unlock new species. These can be upgraded with a currency that is also gained from those missions. These missions are standalone, but come with a challenge mode that is unlocked after the completion of the main version. The challenge mode will also provide more resources for your main colony here. Eventually, story missions will test your colony against some particularly large-scale conflicts.
This Formica Fusca queen has set up home beneath a rotting log. She is fat and vulnerable. Her first brood will need to move quickly if the colony is to survive. Their priority now is to find food, and there is plenty around. But there are other hungry creatures down here. The workers will need to be vigilant.
The first mission takes place in a rotting log and it introduces the player to basic concepts of the game. You build a colony in each of these standalone missions, usually starting with just a queen and some hive ants, although occasionally you'll have something more. You'll gather resources while building an army of workers and soldiers. Currently, we only have workers and soldiers present. I expand fairly quickly. I played this game back in early access, so I know a little bit about what I'm doing now. I sequentially clear out sections, gathering resources necessary to build my army. There isn't a lot of challenge here, as long as you don't open up the cavern with too many enemies at once. The challenge version of this particular map has crickets burrowing in at intervals that require you to defend your base and your queen from attack. The objective here is straightforward. Kill everything. Nuke them from orbit, glass the planet, wipe them out, you know the drill. We'll have different objectives later, but for now I need to clear the log of hostiles so we can take control of this location. The top half of the map has a few enemies. I try to use the corridors to my advantage, a force multiplier if you will. We're not impervious, just close to it. The final big enemy is a fully grown devil's coach horse, which pushes back my army. I regroup further down the tunnel, letting the enemy come to me and then ambushing them in a bend in the corridor. This will hopefully allow my ants to get around and attack from more angles at once. Once defeated, we've essentially won the map, just need to clear some weaker enemies first.
This Formica Fusca colony has now established itself as a rising power in the Undergrowth. Soon their territory will need to expand above ground, where new challenges await. For the time being, however, the Queen is safe.
Now that I've completed a mission, I've acquired resources to upgrade our brood. I unlock the black soldier ant and crack open the exterior of the terrarium. The food we acquired from the mission as a reward is now in the form of seeds on the surface. I'll have to expand the base to a considerable degree to fit all of this food. I also need to expand the base to fit in black ants and workers with this new influx of food. There will be some big battles fought in this terrarium before eventually we are forced to abandon it. The scientists are in control after all. This part here is important for larger hives. The 7 hive ants you get aren't enough to maintain a base of this size. Building additional workers and keeping them in the brood slot gives more helpers to keep delivering eggs to spawning locations when you're in a fight that's killing a lot of ants, which we'll be in eventually. I've also upgraded everything to level 3 after doing some of the challenge modes. As previously stated, challenge modes are usually just one additional enemy or obstacle. As expected, the first mission just has an additional larger enemy to deal with. Later on the beach, for instance, we'll find something much more annoying to deal with. Everything is level 3 in preparation for the conflict that is to come. Ultimately, this base will be discarded when the scientists move us to a different section, but I might as well make this place as livable as possible for the next couple of conflicts here. The second wood ant mission involves raiding by slave maker ants, which are simply here to steal our eggs. I'll have to deal with them and their incursions while expanding the base out to gather resources and deal with a variety of spiders that are scattered about. These slave maker ants will come at regular intervals. Crack open the first spider nest. She'll kill a few as my forces get caught up in the webs, but if we rush her, she'll die. I'll have to repeat this process throughout as there are a lot of spiders here. As always, I have to move pretty fast as the exterior threat will ramp up over time. And in this scenario, we can't deal with the slave makers directly. They are a nebulous exterior force. This is the slave maker's final attack. I pushed them back. I probably should up the difficulty. There are slightly higher resources for higher difficulties, at least as the end product. This final raid, they don't even get to the queen, let alone most of the egg positions.
Once again, the slave makers return to their nest with new black ant larvae to raise as their own. The raids will continue, but this Formica fusca colony has proved its capacity to endure and grow. Eventually they will surpass their parasitic overseers, and the continued raids of the slave makers will reduce to nothing more than a mere inconvenience for the great Black Ant Empire.
I think it is time we connected the outworld to the feeder colonies. I want to see how these Ereptors respond under pressure.
I will prepare the
Let's begin with a small threat.
Connecting the Fusca colony now. I will let 10 through to start with. Our Ereptors have neutralized the threat to their queen.
Good. Continue the experiment and let me know the results. Don't add more than 30 ants at once, though. We don't want to harm the queen.
Understood. I wonder how they will react to a rival Ereptor colony. Introducing 40 rival Ereptor ants.
This is our first story mission. The scientists will test our strength against attack. These will initially be small raids by other ants to record our responses. Eventually, we'll get to the mad scientist portion, and he'll unleash everything he has against us. These first few fights are trivial, though. The first scientist warns the second one not to overdo it, and then he proceeds to completely ignore her and do exactly that. The mad scientist will rapidly ramp up the conflict. I initially fight outside, but once we start getting hit from multiple directions, I retreat to the interior and fight at the entrance. The entrance makes a nice choke point to meet the enemy ants, where we can block them. Our overlord will occasionally gift us seeds. How benign and generous the overlord is. All hail the overlord. Finally, after facing a continuous push, the evil scientist drops in some devil's coach horse beetles for us to face. I mean, why not, right? I guess there'll be food after. They don't last long at our next choke point, though.
How has the colony been responding?
They mounted an excellent defense against 20, 25, and even 30 Fusca ants, as you suggested.
Perfect. Perhaps we can provide more of a challenge for them next time.
What a fantastic suggestion.
The reward for completing this mission is access to wood ants. These are ranged fighters, which will sit behind our black ants and lob projectiles at the enemy. There are two options here, a rapid fire version that is, suitably super fast, and a mortar which does AoE damage. I take the rapid fire as I've had success with that in the past. With the amount of resources I have, I'm able to build up a large group of wood ants in preparation for the next story battle.
This Formica rufa wood ant queen has laid her first brood in a burrow near the sea. Her nest is just on the outskirts of the beach, the perfect vantage point for scavenging hapless morsels washed in by the tide. At the moment, the tide is out, but it won't stay that way. The ants must make haste and stockpile what they can, while they can.
Rising Tide. This is the first beach level. This one gets tricky as there are a lot of threats out here. There are also some bigger insects that will require a larger army to deal with, and until that point I'll just have to avoid them. The challenge variant of this is particularly nasty, but we'll get to that later. There are some resources underground, but during the day we will attempt to gather from the beach, saving the interior for nighttime. There are worse things that come out at night, mostly. I'll send my forces out to the resources nearest the water first. The stuff down at the water's edge is particularly nutrient dense, and it will also be the first that goes away. I'll need it to rapidly build my colony as well. We'll cross paths with rival wood ants and have to deal with them, but I'll mostly stay away from the beetles today. As evening approaches, the tide will rise and drown anyone out there caught in it. It will come in stages, so I try to make sure my people are out of the way. I'll start going for stuff closer to the nest and higher up as the tide slowly fills up everything. Now it's time to dig into the interior during the night. We'll have to deal with the incursions of hermit crabs, which will periodically raid the nest, but we'll have enough time in between to collect resources from the interior, which we will definitely need. Hermit crabs are tough, especially for my budding army. They take a long time to bring down, but fortunately inside this evening we don't have to deal with a huge push of them. Just don't crack open something big when they rush the colony and you'll be fine. Look at this bounty the ocean has bequeathed upon us. A sardine, time for some fish that will nourish our colony. We'll be eating well this night, but this will require some beetle clearing and other ants will attempt to interfere. I have enough forces now to deal with the tiger beetles, so we'll have relatively easy access to the fish. The tide will flow during the evening, forcing me to move to higher ground. We're fat on sardine, but the push to gather food is unending. We'll need extra stock for tonight, as hermit crabs aren't going to be the biggest worry out here. We'll have to deal with something worse that's going to invade the nest tonight. We're able to take out the largest tiger beetles now. Since the tide is rising, I'm dealing with the limited resources available. Fortunately, the beetles give some amount of meat to continue to build our stocks and feed our colony. These spiders will be numerous on the surface, and it could be dangerous for us to go out there, at least this night. I will get bored and leave the nest eventually, however, in the following nights. The wolf spiders will find the nest at night. Periodic raids you'll have to deal with while continuing to gather resources underground. You'll need to be especially careful as the wolf spiders are particularly dangerous. So, I've cleared the underground, but I want to continue to grow. I decide perhaps the surface isn't so bad. A gamble though this might be, there are juicy hermit crabs out there, including this huge one that my forces crawl up on to deal with. There are spiders out here too, and they will cause some problems, but I think I have enough forces to deal with everything this evening. The tide begins to recede as we're outside fighting hermit crabs and spiders in what seems like an endless brawl. The tiger beetles come out, and since it's near morning, we are becoming the most dangerous thing out here. Might not be kicking the humans out of the house, but maybe it's just as satisfying to kick the hermit crabs off the beach. The next day, we are unstoppable. Although we'll face an army of wolf spiders tonight, the day offers no such challenges. We gather with impunity. Tiger beetles were once something to be feared, and now they are just food. The tide rises and night approaches. I am unafraid and start attacking hermit crabs the moment they come out. There are a lot up here, but we are far more numerous. I do take some losses from the spiders, but I think I have enough resources to cover some amount of losses. I'm coming to the slow realization that the exterior doesn't have an infinite spawn. I think I can actually clear it. We're actually outside fighting when the huge wolf spider hits. We deal with her children outside before retreating to the interior to deal with her. There's nothing else that arrives the rest of the night. I actually did clear everything.
Facing an overwhelming infestation. As the ants grow in number, the local predators pose less and less of a danger. Eventually, they will be displaced from this area entirely. Despite the dangers of the beach, it seems this intrepid queen's gamble to establish her colony here has ultimately secured her success. A number of small Formica, Rufa, and Fusca colonies have established themselves on this beach. Those nearest to the water's edge have enjoyed the first pick of the washed-up seafood for the past few days. However, as the sun and moon near alignment and the first spring tide of the month approaches, high tide draws nearer to these intrepid ants. Seemingly aware of their circumstances, these colonies are preparing to relocate to higher ground. There is only one way up the bank, and the route is currently occupied by a small Rufa colony. These defenders will have to hold their ground against the oncoming siege. It will be 3 days before the high tide washes away the competition. If the colony survives, it will inherit the beach, but this won't be an easy fight.
This is the other beach mission. It is quite a bit different and has us defending the hill instead of pushing the beach. There are resources inside, but the exterior is far more lucrative, especially long term. However, it requires some maintenance. The aforementioned aphids will provide us with limitless and regenerating resources. All we have to do is keep the ladybugs away from them. This will get even more difficult by nightfall, as I will need a sizable army to deal with the amount of ladybugs that show up.
The lower ground colonies have relented their siege for now. Night approaches, and with it, it brings a host of nocturnal predators out onto the beach. The high ground ants could go underground to wait out the night, but they would have to leave their precious aphids unguarded. It is a difficult choice for this colony. Face the peril out in the open, or hide away and risk losing their only reliable source of food.
Yeah, we're not leaving our aphids out here alone to die. We need that food supply. I'll have to deal with a whole host of enemies beyond ladybugs though. Although ladybugs can be killed, they take overwhelming firepower to do so and provide very little resources. This isn't grounded, we're not going to be using their shell. The other colonies periodically send out increasing waves, intent on overrunning us and escaping their fate in the tide. By even the second day, I've got enough to deal with their incursions as well as protect both aphid groups from invading ladybugs. I even feel confident enough to break into some of the underground areas to acquire some additional resources. The final day, the two colonies spend all of their remaining resources attempting to break through our lines. I'll be fighting on two fronts, while also attempting to hold some of the aphid farms. They will eventually come out with their queens attempting to escape the flood, and I would decapitate their colonies permanently. We can even harvest their queen for food. Ants are a savage race.
The wood ants upon the hill have finally defeated their would-be successors. Tomorrow their empire will expand to the undefended intertidal flats below, commanding both the aphid farms and the bounty of the sea. This colony will rise to become an undeniable power in the Undergrowth.
This is a quick little overview of the challenge mode of the beach. The antlions here are armored and hide down when surrounded too long. They will constantly drain your forces, and although killable, they will make you work for it every step of the way. Their placement seems random-ish, as another game I found them in different places, so you can potentially get unlucky here. Still, bonus resources, so if you're willing to put up with this constant drain from them eating your forces, you will gain a lot for your main base.
Lost to them diminishes the colony.
The colony seems to have made significant progress. Perhaps it is time we began phase 2 of the trial.
Agreed. I will prepare the feeder colonies.
Let's ease them in with a familiar disturbance. Introduce 20 Formica fusca ants.
The Fusca colony is attached, and the ants are on their way.
I see they haven't lost their potency. Now let's try the Formica rufa ants.
The Rufa will be more aggressive. Our Ereptors will need to put up a strong defense. Adding 20 Rufa ants. Once again, our Ereptors have neutralized the threat to their queen.
Good. Continue the experiment as before, but don't push the colony too hard.
Of course not. That would be irresponsible. Introducing 40 Rufa ants.
For the second experiment, it is time to advance the storyline and work our way towards acquiring a new species to add to our Omega colony. As before, we'll be fighting increasing waves of enemies from multiple fronts. Also as before, the mad scientist will throw in beetles and spiders to the final conflict after his colleague leaves. I am overpowered by this point and should have tried hard, but instead, even with the massive spiders, we're not even remotely challenged. A constant flow from 3 locations and 3 tiger beetles that literally just become food for the colony. We're once again set up at our nest choke point, slaughtering the enemies as they come into our kill zone, like we're in a RimWorld colony almost. 10 wolf spiders at the end forced me to pull some of my forces back to deal with them. Ultimately though, the queen only gets a few scratches before they are dealt with.
It hardly seems. Yes, yes! Victory to the Ereptor!
What's going on here?
Yes, the ants performed excellently against the Rufa. They just staved off an attack from 40 Rufa ants.
40? I think that's enough for now. We don't want to overstress them.
Agreed.
The counterpart colony has been delivered. We need to commence preparation for the final experiment. After that, we can dispose of the specimens and close the project. You should begin transplanting our Ereptors into the modular formicarium, and be careful with the queen.
Yes, I know how to use a trowel.
Ugh.
Close the project. Bah! Did you hear that? Final experiment, my foot! I'm in charge of the colony, and I will decide when we've finished testing. There. All set in your new home. Grow quickly, my little ants. We have lots of work to do.
Continuing on with the storyline, we were relocated to a new colony. We lose our base and have to rebuild. It's okay though, we are given extra jelly for all that we built as compensation. However, our new base will be barren until we complete some missions to build it.
This young queen has successfully raised her first daughters beneath the leaf litter of the rainforest floor. The nutritious fungus she fed them as larvae is now dwindling. If they don't find food quickly, they will all starve. The juicy grubs nearby are a staple meal for many underground opportunists, but for now at least, they will go ignored. This budding Atacephalotis leafcutter colony has only one viable source of food, and it must be collected above ground.
The harvest. We're at the leafcutter colony, which back when I played before was my favorite colony. Leafcutters are complicated, at least more so than other colonies, as they have several dependent resources. They will need a stash for leaves, which will then be taken by the tiny ants, I think they're called minims, to ferment into a fungus they can consume. There will be a waste product from this fermentation, which must be taken to a garbage dump to deteriorate. These tiny workers spawn from brood tiles, so any ant you place will come with one for free. This is where I make an early mistake. I don't build enough workers to get a huge army of minims to ferment the leaves and carry the waste away. I also place the waste and leaves too far apart. This will be a costly mistake later, but for now, I'm completely unaware. I go for the plants nearest the base first to get the initial flux of leaves so I can rapidly build up for further territories. We'll also have to combat the enemy colony to our north, and we'll likely spar over plants in their region, as they're set up a little bit better than us. While we'll need quite a few media ants, as they carry leaves better, as previously stated, I will actually need a lot more workers than I currently have. At night, the predators come out, and there are some real nasty spiders roaming about. We'll need to get some majors out to help protect the gathering lines and eventually redirect in attacks against the other colony in a desperate attempt to limit their gathering capabilities. Even here during the first night, we can see a problem with production lines. The leaves are stacking up, but we're not taking them away to ferment as quickly as we need to be. This forces me to build larger stocks, when in reality what I needed to do was build a legion of workers. I tried to place speedways in my base to hurry the little minims along to compensate for this. I struck up to the northeastern section, which is filled with juicy plants. Early on, I was ahead, but by this point I'm beginning to fall behind. I built a lot of medias to gather leaves, and I start building out workers, but the gap between myself and the other colony continues. I make some north raids against the other colony, hitting them just below the entrance. This is an act of desperation on my part to slow down the gap that is growing between us. The problem, of course, isn't the other colony, it's my lack of minims, but I'll only figure that part out at the end. Eventually he retaliates, forcing me to retreat my whole operation to another location entirely. Towards the end, the leaf stores are full again, and this definitely has slowed me beyond the point of catching up. Still, I'm out here battling, pushing the enemy off the harvesting locations, even for a little bit, just to try to slow him down somewhat. Despite my own shortcomings, we are actually pretty close. I slow him down some, but not enough. Defeat is imminent. I clash one final time near their nest at the end, and get kicked out of that too. The moral of this story is, build workers so you have lots of minims. Don't be like me.
As the leaves nearby are depleted and the superior hillside atta colony cuts off access to new pastures, the nest falls into ruin. The ants grow weak, the gardens rot, and the queen is left to starve. Her reign has ended. This small leafcutter colony has established a foothold in a clearing near the base of a tree. Their location provides prime access to lucrative harvesting grounds which have gone unchallenged for the past few weeks. However, unbeknownst to the ants, the peace is about to be broken. A scourge is drawing in. It will be here by morning.
Frontline. This mission requires us to build up defenses to deal with the incursions of a massive horde of army ants. They will start on the west and slowly move east until, if you allow their threat to grow, they will be on top of the colony. The only way to bring them down is to eliminate their numbers, and that will require a sizable army of our own to accomplish. First things first though, build a sustainable economy with plenty of workers for minims and waste that is located relatively nearby to the leaves. This time we won't need such a large store of leaves as it'll never get over a few hundred at any one time, which is how it should work if your economy is built properly. I've learned my lesson. As a side note, the challenge for these two leafcutter missions are parasitic flies. They basically act as area denial as they infect your ants, which slow them down and eventually kill them. The flies are random, I think, so sometimes they can get in the way and there's nothing you can really do about it. Like most challenges thus far though, this is simply an attrition to your numbers. Once more, I hit the plants close by. Until night, the west will be completely off limits, so I need to build up a sizable force to deal with the nighttime predators that are going to creep in. We'll be fighting a lot here, both against the native insects as well as the army ants. There was also a giant red spot on the map towards the west, but don't worry about that, we'll get to him later. The army ants are already at the midway point on the first day. The progress bar at the top indicates where they will invade new locations. We'll need to stop them before they get to the base, but fortunately night comes before that, allowing me an evening of gathering in preparation for that coming conflict. As night falls, the west opens up and we're allowed to pillage that side of the map. I have to deal with spiders and other predators present though. My economy is working and the leaves rarely get over 100, giving me a constant flow of juicy fungus. I continue to build workers even this late, but I have a larger focus on majors as I will need a fighting force by morning. When the day arrives, the army picks right up where they left off. I've made quite a bounty during the night, but we'll have to move our harvest back to the other side of the map. I try to hold them back with my small force as my harvester group retreats to our side of the map. We actually begin to push them back, lowering their forces in the region before a scout brings in a fighting group that I must divert to deal with. At one point, on the second night, the leaf stocks become full. I build more workers to get more minims, but this is likely due to the lack of garbage space. Waste needs will accumulate over time and need to be expanded periodically, especially with the amount of resources we have coming into the colony on a regular basis. I do upgrade more space though. We can't have a momentary lapse in resource gathering. The expansion of waste brings my leaf count down once more, and we keep it down. During the second night, I take the majors off gathering and have them regroup near the boss of the map. The fully grown whip spider must die. I just didn't like how he looked at my guys with all those eyes. That's kind of weird, right? I need access to its location. This is a dread monstrosity that my majors can't handle alone, and eventually I swap my media to reinforce them in taking out the whip spider. She is the equivalent of a raid boss, at least here, with that huge health bar. Once everyone is working together, however, we slowly drain her down. Unfortunately, we can't eat her. We only want fungus. Almost as if by design, the army ants begin to arrive shortly after the death of the boss. We have tolerated these army ants for long enough. It is time to push them out of our domain. This is the domain of the leaf cutter after all. I gather my forces to hit the second line, as I have gatherers on the west side harvesting near where the whip spider was. Once we decimate that second line, I move to the first line on the western side. I cut them off and we bring them down. Only a matter of time.
Against impossible odds, the soldiers of the Atta stronghold met the tyrannical intruders with ferocious defiance time and time again. Unable to break their lines and after tremendous losses, the army ant swarm has finally elected to move on. For the leafcutters, the ultimate trial is over.
My primary colony, the main base, has grown. We sadly won't remain here for long either, but we do have an enemy colony to deal with in the future.
I'm afraid we've ran out of time. It doesn't matter if the nest isn't perfect. Run the experiment, then clear out the specimens and bleach the equipment.
Yes, I know. I'm doing it.
And when you are finished here, I think we should have a word about your conduct around the laboratory.
I think we should have a word about your conduct around the laboratory.
What was that?
Nothing. Starting the experiment.
Good. Let me know when you have a result.
Okay, my little ants. This is it. The winner will have the privilege of joining me for the ultimate test, the real final experiment. The loser will be relegated to the waste disposal. The four Macariums are connected. Let the war commence!
Time to fight the enemy colony, but as usual, this isn't just a straightforward fight. I try hard difficulty this time as I'm in a particularly strong position. I march my forces out to the tunnel and we see the mad scientist's hand nearby. More on that in a little bit. I make the first move, overrunning the defenders until our overlord intervenes against us. His attacks do slow my forces down enough that I try to backtrack to the tunnel to regroup. I'm hoping he can't smash my ants there. What a cheater. We'll need everyone to deal with the enemy here. Naturally, the mad scientist lets loose some crickets in the nest, and I have to relocate my entire forces back to ensure my workers can hold the line. Somehow, the enemy colony is broken before this point, so they don't actually push the advantage they would otherwise have. One lone ant holds the area outside the nest. Our overlord crushes more of my forces along the way, but it doesn't matter. The queen has royal guard that spawn, but we're too numerous for that to matter either. In spite of the reinforcements, the enemy queen is devoured.
Perfect! I knew my raptors would prevail. Now we can prepare for the real...
Have you finished yet?
Yes, our raptors have dominated the Phobacarium.
Wonderful. I expect a full report by the end of the week. For now, you can start by clearing away. Make sure anything contaminated with that jelly goes straight to the incinerator.
Yes, very good. Jelly to the incinerator. The jelly is for my ants, and no one is going to take it away from you.
Unfortunately, it is time to rehouse the colony yet again. We'll get a bonus for everything here, but we'll be starting all over again. We do get to unlock the fire ants as a reward. However, in order to do anything, we'll need to complete some missions to be able to build and mine out the interior.
Short-sighted, simple, churlish fools. They don't understand. None of them understand. The experiment must proceed. There isn't much time. Quickly, my raptors. Into the terrarium. You'll be safe here.
Is it done?
Yes. Look. Gone.
I see. Well, good. It's about time. Anyway, I'm going to need you to make yourself available this afternoon. Apparently, a large quantity of unrefined jelly has gone missing from the overflow vessel, and Supply wants to speak with the whole group about proper checkout procedures. You wouldn't happen to know anything about it, would you?
What? No! What would I want with unrefined jelly?
Well, quite.
What would I want, indeed?
This Solenopsis invicta fire ant queen has landed on the edge of a swamp. She may be far from her native habitat, but the fire ants are well known for their ability to adapt. Competition for food will be fierce. She will need to raise an army quickly to compete with the local predators.
Cold blood. The swamp is host to amphibians, and we're fire ants. The nest is problematic in the best of situations. I choose poorly and have to eventually spread my fire ant soldier nest all over the place. We'll need an enormous army to deal with all the varied threats that exist out here. The first thing, once breaking out, is to gather as many of the aphids and bring them back to our little hill as possible. This map is mostly devoid of resources, but the aphids will create a permanent and refreshing supply that will be right next door. It'll be dangerous to cross early, but I need those aphids ASAP. There's also a pine cone in the upper left side. This will be a big injection of resources, but there are a lot of predators around. I'll need to take a bigger force to likely survive to even get there. There are also resources in the underground, and I try to get them, unleashing grubs that cause havoc for a short amount of time. I have quite the resource cache available to us after being killed, though. Night comes early, before I'm even able to get enough to move out to the pine cone. There are amphibians that come out at night, and we'll have to brave it and hope we have the numbers to deal with the nighttime infestations. I need those resources. There are also amphibians in the underground attempting to burrow into my colony. These will occasionally break through, requiring me to relocate all of my soldiers to defend the hive. We'll have to micromanage the surface and the interior throughout the mission. There'll be a special surprise battle at the end, too. The fire ants can create a bridge. This will allow me to reach the aphids across the swamp to reinforce my food supply back on the hill. We'll need to do this several times to collect all of the otherwise inaccessible aphid locations. I have to aggro the black ants to the south in order to acquire their aphids. They will grow their numbers and retaliate later on in response to my aggression. Eventually we'll have to destroy their nest, and then also the big heads before we assault the bullfrog. I aggro the big heads to take their aphids. They are all workers, but have the ability to make soldiers. They will now produce these since I invaded their territory. Much like the black ants, we'll have to deal with them later, when I'm more numerous. There is a raid on our aphids, which have become quite numerous by this point. They'll try to take some of them back, and I have to retreat to defend our hill. I think this is all the aphids, and I have them on my hill. It's time to eliminate our rivals. The black ants to the south are first. They have been weakened by continual attacks on us that are ultimately failures, leaving them vulnerable to retaliation. My forces rush to the queen and overwhelm her. Now the bounty of their hive is mine. Time to loot this place before moving on to the next enemy. The big heads are next, and they've been particularly annoying. We need to focus solely upon the big frog and not have to deal with other ant incursions into our territory, or trying to steal their aphids back. I mean, our aphids, because obviously they're mine. The big head's queen is eliminated. We loot some of the colony and then leave it for what I believe is the final battle.
Nocturnal counterparts.
Now, I thought the whip spider was a raid boss, but this American bullfrog, this is the actual raid boss. This one makes the whip spider seem inconsequential by comparison. The fire ants crawl all over the frog, stinging and attacking, while those in the front are destroyed in huge numbers. We actually start to have problems getting eggs transported towards the end, unable to keep up with the continual attrition of our forces. Fortunately, we still have the numbers to deal with him. Surprise! Once the big frog is dead, all of the smaller amphibians invade, believing it is their time to rule the swamp. Unfortunately, I'm here. I'm here to deny that possibility, obviously. They seem to know this, assaulting my colony directly and forcing us to defend from all directions simultaneously inside the colony.
As the anarchy above ground settles and with the invaders crushed, a new order is established. This is now the domain of the fire ant. This fire ant queen has traveled for miles on her nuptial flight, finally landing atop a sandy mound deep in the swamp. The vantage point might seem like an ideal home, but it may be short-lived. This whole area is liable to flooding, and nearby rainfall is already causing the groundwater to rise. Exhausted and without her wings, the queen is unable to move on alone. But if she can amass enough daughters in time, the colony as a whole may stand a chance.
A bridge too far. We're back in the swamp. This time, though, our area is going to flood. We must build a large enough brood to carry the queen to safety when the floodwaters arise. Because of the flooding, we'll also be forced to fight a lot of creatures that are fleeing the water.
A great blue skimmer, Libellula vibrans, hunts overhead. This fantastic aerial predator shouldn't cause any trouble for the ants. That is, unless it decides to land in their way.
This map is kind of confusing, especially at first. Not everywhere is accessible immediately. Some areas require the floodwater to rise in order to access them, but that isn't immediately apparent. There's a lot of resources around here. I know I need to get to the aphids, as that'll be a continuous and localized supply. The waters rise very quickly, and we're pushed back from the eastern pine cones all the way to the base. Fire ants are relatively weak. Their numbers are where they become a true menace. I have to retreat back to the nest, dealing with spiders that enter the colony. Time to get some underground resources to recoup my losses from this ill-fated foray. Yet more invaders are pouring up from the floodwater. They push us back into the colony. They don't provide much, but at least we can eat some of them. We're going to need a lot more soldiers to deal with this continual invasion. I do some bridging to reach aphids scattered about. I'm not going to get all of them, I realize, but even a few for the trickle of nectar will be useful. I have to time this between the floods and the surge of creatures fleeing from those floods, however.
The ants will fight.
I make an ill-fated drive to steal aphids from the black ants, which are on an isolated island. This requires bridging a portion of my army, and we don't quite have the numbers to overwhelm them. I perhaps should have remained and continued to push them back to the entrance of their nest, but I was worried about wasting the time required to get through to the aphids. Flooding and invasions are pretty common now. I decided to get some underground bounty cleared out to recover losses and bend on my failed ambitions against the black ants. There is plenty to feast on down here. There's a problem here, but I haven't realized it yet. My population isn't growing anywhere near where it should be. In order to escape and not drown, we have to increase the population bar all the way. I'm doing the usual upgrade and build, but the solution here is to just build. We need numbers more than we need upgrades, and upgrades are too expensive.
The battle has begun.
This particular aphid plant requires more than one bridging unit. We have the numbers now to make such a crossing, however. In the challenge variation of the swamp, there are these water spiders that attack when your ants attempt to bridge. It can be particularly annoying, as most of the challenges are. You have to lure them out and then fall back from the bridge to attack, and then you can build a bridge to cross. I bridge to a pine cone across what should otherwise be an insurmountable chasm. I choose the pine cone of the black ant colony, even though if I got the aphids and moved to their colony, I would probably be set. I likely have the numbers for it too, but I decide to play it safe instead. In the middle of this bridging action while gathering, the dragonfly decides at this moment this is the perfect time to attack the base. I have to retreat everyone back to defend the colony. This will be quite the bounty in itself if I'm able to bring this flying gargantuan down. Get over here. He wanted to fight and now I'm obliged to give him that fight. He's going nowhere except to become nourishment for the colony.
Great Skimmer's attempts to flee became ever more futile.
Oddly, the firefly has less resources than a pinecone. I won't complain though, we need everything we can get for this final push before the floodwaters reach us. The pond has risen, allowing access to another pinecone, yet another insurmountable gap is scaled by our glorious bridging units. Meanwhile, we have enough forces to deal with the fleeing insects from the floodwaters too. By this point, I'm simply spamming fire ants. No upgrades, none of that nonsense. Fortunately, here at the end, we reach the population required. All that's left is to gather, and to draw our queen out from the base to save her.
By joining their bodies together to form a giant raft, the fire ants were able to ferry the queen from the mound just as the nest filled with water. Their perils are not over, but they've shown great resilience and an ability to survive in this harsh environment. Wherever they land, the creatures of the swamp will quickly come to know the might of the fire ants.
They're about to start the Glaber trials at Site B. Are you coming?
Oh, no. Mole rats, not really my area of interest. Besides, this report won't write itself. Nose to the grindstone, shoulder to the wheel. Busy, busy, busy.
Right. Well, I'll be back in an hour then.
No need to rush. I have everything quite in hand. Unfortunately, we're still waiting on apparatus critical to the final experiment. But fate has presented us an opportunity, and this we must take. There's plenty to get started with for now. We'll need specimens, transposition canisters, towels, scalpels, glycerol, my trusty curette, and, of course, jelly. So, my enduring raptors, we've witnessed your proficiency for resisting natural predators, but what about the unnatural? After all, our work with the counterparts barely scratched the surface. Even on incompatible subjects, the effects of the jelly are remarkable. It may not look very pretty, nor indeed live longer than a day, but for our purposes, it's perfect. May I present to you my most armored hybrid, the Hermit Scorpion?
The final experiment. We're fighting mad scientist minions next. The whip spider no longer seems like the raid boss he once was, as we are able to fight mutated amalgamations formed by the scientists with parts on hand, seemingly. No doubt there is a bit of insect necromancy at work with these creatures too. The Hermit Scorpion. I ignore the advice not to break the shell and lose numerous ants to that casual mistake. We have the numbers to deal with most anything at this point, and although our supplies aren't as high as I'd like, they should be enough for this. The next set are the twins, as if we're in some beat-em-up, where you always have to have a pair of twins. They aren't hot ninja ladies, though. Instead, they are horrific monsters that we definitely need to put an end to. Fortunately, we can fight them sequentially. They might be problematic together. Losses are high, but our numbers are indomitable. The final conflict is with Dragantula. It has a number of moves that will require dodging, but my force is difficult to maneuver since everything's in one slot. We'll take losses here, but it's clear from the outset we have more than enough DPS to win this particular battle.
Yes! Defeated! Oh, if only we could finish now, but we must be patient. You'll have to stay in here for now where they won't find you. Don't give up. I'll be back soon, little raptor. What is the meaning of this?
Get him out of here!
It's okay. I just need to escort you off site. Come on.
Absolutely unacceptable. You'll be hearing from my union representative.
Okay.
Don't
Okay.
touch
Sorry.
me. That is assault, my friend. Oh, I hope those cameras are recording. Aha! I told you I'd be back. My poor ants! What has happened to you? Don't worry, I'm here now. One final experiment and this will all be over. We'll need to get your strength up. Eat this for now. I'll be back soon with more supplies. Sit tight. Need something to stand on.
During the passage of time, the colony starved. While we were hidden, there was no food, and eventually everyone died out, save for the Queen and a small scattering of our original forces. The mad scientist sneaks into the lab and drops us off some food. We can begin to slowly rebuild. There are also new and what I presume the final sets of missions available. We'll need a lot of food to recover from this. This is also where I will be encountering new missions, as the Matabele ants that we're about to run into were not in the game the last time I played.
Escorted by a small entourage of loyal soldiers, this young queen has set out to establish a new colony on the edge of the savannah. These are Megaponera analis, the Matabele ants. They are large, fierce, and specialize in raiding termite nests. The Matabele may be predators, but they are very picky about their prey. The other creatures nearby are insignificant compared to the vast and replenishable bounty locked within the local termite mounds. Raids are conducted at dusk and dawn, and the night is almost over. It is time.
Triage. We're trying out the Matabele colony, which are termite eaters apparently, so we'll be getting to raid some termites for food. First things first though, got to break out of the mound and see what the map looks like. We got 3 termite nests at the upper section of the map. I'll need to do hit and run tactics against the termites, especially early on, as their soldiers are more than strong enough to deal with my little force. I'm also gardening here. I don't want to wipe them out, just feed on them periodically. Some sort of vampiric relationship here. I'm unfamiliar with this group. The last time I played the game was in early access, and I don't think these missions existed, or at least I never got to them. Not knowing what's coming, I built my colony a little close to the entrance, thinking I'll have these indestructible walls to protect them, but, that may not actually work out. We have to deal with the encroachments of the blizzards and other creatures. They'll get in the way of raiding, so I'll need to periodically cull the region. I have some medics now. They'll hopefully help keep my losses down, and less wasted resources on growing replacements. Unfortunately, these lizards aren't really food, and my dudes only like termites for the most part.
Not enough food to feed the new brood.
The majority of gathering, so to speak, in this mission will be hit and run attacks on the termites while dealing with lizards and other insects that get in the way. Mostly the termites are only out at night, so that is when I'll have to attack them most. The daytime is just keeping the area clear and maybe some underground gathering here and there. There are some boss battles coming throughout, however, so I'll need all the termite meat I can acquire to keep my forces around and intact.
The battle has begun. It is quiet tonight. Usually the Undergrowth would be bustling with nighttime predators, but few have surfaced. Something has them spooked. On the move,
Ruh-roh. Something is coming, but I'm going to continue to gather until the monstrosity actually arrives.
Unable to fit through the entrance, she'll need to dig her way in. This could be disastrous.
We're under attack. This insect just batters her way into the nest. All those unbreakable walls are gone. Unfortunately, I have enough soldiers to deal with the spider.
She must be stopped.
Also, the colony is now wide open for anyone else to raid. In the wake of a giant creature, I take advantage of the relative peace and quiet that follows to do some more termite raids. Although not a direct threat to the colony, there are some giant lizards out in the clearing. I need them out of the way, and apparently we have more than enough to kill them appropriately. I get them both so I don't have to maneuver around them in the future, at least until more replace them. Another night arrives with another incursion of giant creatures. I'm less concerned now that I have a sizable force present. A centipede attacks right outside the nest when we were waiting for it. Still, the thing gets into the base and destroys more of the walls in its battle against our forces, even exposing the queen's chamber. As usual, even after it dies, the amount of food it provides is pretty slim. I attack this one giant lizard and a second one decides to leap into the fray too. I was going to clear it anyway, but I wasn't expecting both of them at once. Our forces have grown to a considerable size, and that is fortunate as we're about to face the final boss of the region. The scorpion rolls right up to the base, unperturbed by our numbers. Eventually, the scorpion just decides to go inside to do battle, as inevitably it must. We are wearing it down, and I have a decent stock of food for losses, but my medics are quick to ensure we don't take absurd losses. The frenzy at the end isn't enough to save the scorpion, and we bring it down, completing the level.
Even as wave after wave of soldiers were crushed, the Matabele would not relent. The fiercest raiders mounted the beast, whilst maimed defenders sliced at its joints. Finally, the Emperor Scorpion fell. Having bested the three titans, the message to the savanna arthropods is clear. Confronting the Matabele in their home will only end one way. This Matabele queen has located the perfect spot to found a new colony. Surrounded in all directions by termite mounds, securing a steady supply of food should be no problem. Her raiders are spoiled for choice. Unfortunately for this colony, prosperity is about to turn into peril. Not far from here, a vast army of Dorilus nigricans driver ants have established a temporary outpost. Like their New World counterparts, the Essaton army ants, they are nomadic and will send out daily marauding columns in search of food. The local termite mounds will not go unnoticed for long.
Drive them back. Once more, we are the Matabele ants, but this time we're dealing with a variant of army ants that are looking to completely cull the surrounding termite nests. In a twist of fate, I become the steward of these termites, as they are our only food source. I must build my army to combat these incursions and save the termites from extinction, which ultimately would lead to my own extinction. The yellow or southwestern termite colony is the easiest to get to and attack to feed my ranks and swell my army. The green or northwestern termite mound will be the first to face the culling raids of the army ants. Right now I'm too weak to assist. That mound is on its own for the moment as I feed on yellow. They have soldiers and I hope they can hold out for a day or two. Unfortunately, green doesn't put up much of a defense, and every soldier lost just becomes more food. The green nest was slaughtered and destroyed. The army ants, however, didn't loot the queen's body for some reason. I send my forces into the nest to harvest the meat from my colony. After the army ants had left for the day, her remains would nourish my colony instead. Here they are going for yellow. I probably haven't helped the situation much as I've been feeding on yellow a whole lot lately. They seem reticent to engage with soldiers, so I was able to feed deeply. I send my forces over to eat the backside of the army ants and steal the food they got from killing yellow soldiers. At the last moment, I retreat away from the main group before doubling back to their back line again. Yellow is destroyed as I face the front lines, intending to eliminate them here if I can. I believed I had the numbers to stop them, but I miss a number of casualties required by only 8. We'll see them again on the morrow, but I get to loot the termite queen and nourish my colony while we await the next day, when I get to stop the army ants completely. Even in death, yellow can still serve. During the night, I get into some of the skirmishes with stink ants, which have tunnels through my base. I'm far too numerous for them, in spite of them appearing much larger in size. I think if you close all 4, you can divert them against the army ants as an optional objective if you want to slow the enemy down. I don't think much can stop the army ants beyond my forces. The enemy has returned, and this time they are going after blue or northeast. We'll hit their lines and take them from the front and back, splitting their forces in half. I have the numbers and experienced troops to eliminate them from this region entirely. I even chase them up the hill, hitting their backside near the termite nest as another wave pours in from the west. I try to regroup my forces to meet this incoming force, having stopped them from gathering any food thus far. My medics are busy carrying off the wounded to res them back at the base, keeping my costs low and also bringing forces back quicker. For a moment I have to regroup, pulling off the line before attacking again. Once more I surge up the hill to the backside where they are carrying away soldier termite remains. Success, they are beaten back, saving the last 2 termite mounds as my food source under our stewardship.
Their losses far outweighing the food they could carry home, the driver ants have finally been forced away. The Matabili have regained control over their territories and stewardship of the remaining termite mounds. If the driver ants should ever return, this colony will be prepared. This Macrotermes bellicosus termite king and queen are one of 3 reproductive pairs that founded colonies here. Vegetation is less abundant on the savanna than in the jungle, and with these 3 mounds being so close to one another, there isn't enough food to sustain them all. Eventually, 2 of them will be outcompeted.
Last mound standing. In a weird twist of fate, we are the termites this time, and we'll have to deal with the Matabili ants attacking us and other colonies. The other termites aren't our allies, but they are far enough away that there will only be an occasional skirmish. With luck, they will be the ones that Matabili feed on. This economy is similar to the leaf cutters in gathering resources and having a second group process this into a currency we can use. The economy is the first thing we must get up and get a grasp on ASAP. The Matabili will strike the top mound and then the bottom mound before striking us. We'll need to be prepared with soldiers and upgraded troops before that point in order to discourage them from making a second attack immediately, as I believe that the Matabili go after the weakest of the colonies first. There's a nigh limitless amount of wood here, but it is often interspersed with hostile insects that will require some amount of forces to deal with. In the challenge version of this mission, there's a giant scorpion that periodically assaults your colony from an alternative entrance, but I don't have to deal with that here. Also inside the colony, there are pockets of wood scrap for when daylight hits, and I have to move my forces inside as termites don't do well in the sun. We have a few soldiers when it's our turn for the Matabili to raid. The larger termite soldiers are meatheads, while the smaller ones confuse enemy ants. I group them with my larger gatherers as they are mostly upgraded and can fight too. Just in time too, the ready party moves in and I don't get everyone back inside before getting hit. They don't last too long once they get inside, as every termite they kill, they gather and run off with. The objective here isn't to win, but to lose last. As I did the least damage on the last raid, I am once again raided. This time I have everyone here. Perhaps I can repel them strong enough that they go bother someone else for a little while. Manage to get ahead of both north and south, which means I'll have a short respite before I'm the target again. Time to gather as much as I can in the meantime to ensure the next battle goes more poorly for the Matabili. After a couple more raids, I am once more perceived as the weakest colony. That's a lie, though. I'm actually the strongest by this point. The Matabili target us, and I have to scramble everyone back to the colony to fight the entrance. As usual, I don't get everyone inside, and the skirmish is fought outside before the ants rush us. Once more, I do considerable damage and send the Matabili to the other colonies. I suspect the others won't survive this encounter, at least I hope. The northern colony is obliterated by the largest raid yet. The southern colony, realizing the end is nigh, attempts to raid my colony. They are in for a bit of an unpleasant surprise that will ensure they lose to the ants at the next dawn. At dawn, an extinction army marches on the southern colony while I observe from afar. I continue to gather, just in case the southern colony somehow survives this next fight, but I am fairly confident we will lose last.
With the northern and southern mounds emptied, the remaining termites inherit complete control of the local vegetation. Feeding unhindered, they will outgrow the threat from the raiders and extend their mound into a towering savanna fortress. A monument worthy of a great termite empire.
It's been a long road, hasn't it, my Reptus? You've done so well. Everyone doubted your potential for selective assimilation. Everyone except for me, of course. We need only arouse the remaining mutation vectors and it will be complete. Imagine it. No host rejection, no secondary augmentations. Tonight we finish it. Tonight we conduct the final experiment. Everything is arranged. Perhaps not as clinical as certified company equipment, but we'll make do. Our fates are intertwined now, my little ants. Do not fail me.
The mad scientist returns to build our tolerances to, well, I guess everything. I've lost a few previous versions of this mission, as the cage gets tapped hard if I hide inside the colony, which eventually kills your queen. So this time I'm just gonna stay outside and tank the damage. Our overlord drops jelly into the battlefield, which will allow us to purchase the upgrades on the sides of the screen. These upgrades will eventually make these elemental death rays a buff, but early on they will just outright kill our ants. As we switch from one side to the other, gathering jelly as well as killing bugs that are dropped in for good measure, our resistances slowly go. Try to dodge some of the death rays by moving our forces away from the area of danger after gathering the jelly. Doesn't always work, but I can avoid some of the early losses that way. We don't get much in the way of food other than the creatures we kill, but I saved up a whole lot for this particular test. Eventually, the jelly is dropped in 2 spaces on either side, and I'm forced to split my forces up a little bit more to gather it simultaneously. The amount of enemies also begins to ramp up as the mad scientist drops them in for us to contend with, while also coping with the elemental death rays. The amount of jelly leisurely ramps up so we can afford the more and more expensive damage resistances that will be required to survive the final phase. The arena even starts activating 2 death rays at once, although with the jelly as enticement and reason to venture out and die. Giant madnesses also begin to show up as adversaries, but they aren't even the worst. A gameplay element shuts the lights off and we must manage in the dark, gathering jelly that will eventually provide us full immunity.
Where is it?
We're fully upgraded here, and yet the jelly is still dumped in our colony. What killed us only makes us stronger. My food stores are even maxed out at one point, as our colony has become nigh invulnerable with all these upgrades. Towards the end of the stage, other colonies are let in, alongside endless amounts of other insects that are just dropped in haphazardly.
Get back!
Fire in the hole!
Get back!
A once lethal catalyst for unbounded mutation, now tamed and molded through you, my Raptor host, and finally rectified for human consumption. Tonight, I imbibe the power of the colony. Yes, I can feel it. It's working. We are the ultimate state of life. We? What did I say? Oh, this shouldn't be happening. The power of the colony. The bonds of the colony. No! Yes. My queen.
The mad scientist draws forth from our immunity, intending to inject himself and, I guess, mutate himself. In an unexpected twist, he becomes an ant-human hybrid that is consumed by the hive mind, eventually becoming a servant of the queen. Okay, yeah, I didn't see that coming. Sure, I can now use the scientist's hand to crush our enemies. Why not? We're surrounded and under attack everywhere, so even a finger is helpful at this point.
We must leave now, my queen. It is not safe here. We
We will go into the wild and feed so that you may birth the first elates. Securing the line of the Ereptor will need much sustenance.
Dear Lord, what is that?
No! What has he done? Get everyone up! Seal the doors!
Okay, who could have foreseen that ending? Not me. I guess I called it when I said he was a mad scientist at the start, but I had no idea we were going to go that far with it. There's a bunch of stuff unlocked here. I can add multiple ants, even termites to my colonies in New Game Plus. There are some custom missions it talks about. There are skirmishes, and there are also some sort of documentary type missions. Plenty more to do here beyond just the campaign. I won't be going into those here, as this is just a look into the expansive campaign of the game. Great experience overall with a lot of variety. I think the leafcutters remain my favorite colony though. You somehow made it all the way here. Thank you for watching.